Good evening, good evening, good evening. Happy Monday. Happy Monday.
Happy
Welcome to the
Monday.
Woman to Woman show on the
Hello,
New
hello,
Woman
hello.
Network. We are so excited to be back here another Monday, the first Monday in April. And we will start as we normally start. I am Theodora Carter. I am a certified professional life coach, career coach, HR consultant, and the owner and founder of T. Carter Coaching and Consultant. And what am I grateful for? I am grateful for the month of April because it is my birthday month. And so I'm grateful that one, I am still here. Thank you, God. And
Yes.
first Monday in April that we've made it. We're in a new season, so I'm grateful for
Mhm,
that.
mhm.
I know, Shirley, you're happy. Warmer weather coming our way,
Not
right?
yet.
Not
It,
yet.
listen, this weather is crazy.
For
Really
sure.
I mean, I know it's
we've
supposed
been
to be
having good weather
pleasant,
down
but
here, so I guess that's why I'm grateful. I think this weekend we hit high 80s.
Wow.
oh,
Yeah,
woo,
yeah.
I
So
wish.
yeah. So well, Sheila, I'm gonna toss the mic to you. Oh, and I'm
I,
grateful that my renewal passport has been approved.
well, all right.
I
Hopefully,
was
I
worried
come
about that in
soon.
this current political climate.
Yeah, hopefully it won't get yanked in the process.
No,
Mhm.
they said they put it in the mail. They said it's on the way. So
All right.
Listen, the way things are going right now, that could be easily shipped, fished out of the mail, and all of a sudden that approval is rescinded.
we are not. No, we're rebuking that. We're rebuking
For
that.
real.
We're gonna rebuke it. Good evening. My name is Sheila Isom. I am an insurance claims professional. I am also a notary public, and I am also an independent stylist for Color Street nail polish strips, which is an alternative to your liquid nail polish.
Mhm.
And I am grateful for God willing tomorrow because there are some times when you just need the day to end and start anew the next day. So I'm just hoping that tomorrow will be, no, I'm calling it to existence that tomorrow will be a better day.
Yes, yes, we stand in agreement. We stand
Yes.
in agreement. But you missed something else that you do. The
Oh,
new thing.
that's right, because I haven't really done it yet, but I am a voice actor. So hopefully, in the upcoming months, I'll be able to tell everyone when I've booked my first gig, and I can let you know maybe um, what it is that I have actually put my voice to.
Nice.
Nice, nice, nice. All right, Gina. Last but not least.
That is correct. Hey, y'all. I am Regina Howard Norman of Origin Unlimited. During my daytime, I am a vocational recreational coordinator with a nonprofit organization, and I provide vocational job readiness and recreational activities for the participants we serve. Also, I am a baker.
Mm.
I have Regina's Baking Academy where I teach people how to the fun and the love of being in the kitchen and preparing with your two hands. Some basic recipes that you can take and just elevate with little simple touches. And using, I believe in teaching using what we got. We don't always have to run out to the store buy a whole new cutlery set or pots and all that. Let's see what we got in the house and work with that.
Mm.
Um, I'm a licensed vendor with the Department of Education, which is really fun for me because I get to work with young folks, anywhere from elementary to high school students. And I do believe in paying it forward in the sense of passing on education and life experience to help empower the journey that they are on. Uh, I'll leave it there. What what I'm grateful for today is that I got through Monday. Y'all,
So you had a
look
day
here.
too, huh?
I today trying to stay awake, so you know, right. I was tired and I was praying that I would stay fully awake and fully engaged and fully active in the day. And I was just happy that when 5 o'clock came, we all were running for the door. It was
Yeah.
like it's over. We all want to go home. So I was just happy that I made it, and I have to recalibrate my moves in the evening so I can be ready for the morning.
Let me tell you, Monday was Mondaying. I'll tell you that much.
Ooh,
Yes, yes, it was.
yes.
Yes, it
Yeah,
was.
and it's so crazy because I've said to myself like Friday, I decided to like me and some of our team, we volunteered at this place called Medicist in North Carolina. It's a nonprofit that provides like medication and other type of toiletries and stuff to individuals for free, like so they can actually order stuff and they fulfill orders. And so I was like, you know what? That's from 9 to 12. So I said to my supervisor, I was like, I think I'm gonna take the afternoon off. And so I took the afternoon off and went and met with a couple of ladies from church, and we had a nice little lunch, right, and early dinner. So it was kind of cool. So I was like, the weekend felt a little longer, but then
Yeah.
today, Monday was Monday. So I was like, okay,
We got through it, so we all, you know what? Not that we got through it, but the day was whatever it needed to be, and
yeah,
now we don't have to worry about it because it's behind us.
yeah.
Yep.
And
And like,
that's
yep, that's like Sheila said,
yeah,
right? It is behind us, and tomorrow, a new day. And it wasn't a bad day. It just was like, how you plan stuff. I'm gonna get this done, this done, this done, and then
yeah,
they have another whole thing in mind for us. So,
yeah.
but we are here, and we are gonna get into this topic. So our topic tonight is spring cleaning for the soul. So as we come into this new season, right? April, spring, let's talk about decluttering our souls inside and out. And
I love this
so,
topic.
yeah. So
Yeah.
when you hear that topic, like what comes to mind for you?
Whew. Uh, I think about some of the things that have been weighing heavy over the last few months. Some things that maybe I thought about but hadn't really processed,
Mm,
and it's the thing of what am I holding on to that's not really helping me,
mm,
and uh, what and how do I release that or those things?
mm,
Because it reminds me of the chapter I wrote. Not a shameless plug, but it really reminded me of the chapter I wrote in it's your time, sis, because it talked about how to release and let go of things that are no longer serving me.
mm,
And that's for anyone. How do we let go of the things that no longer serves us? So one of the things I've realized is um, sometimes we do a really good job of giving ourselves what I call emotional gymnastics, where we labor on the thing too long, and it's not serving us right because it's the focus is on those things that need to be let go or at least dealt with. Sometimes we say, oh, let go, but sometimes it's a matter of addressing the things that are on our mind. So for me, I think about what things have I been ruminating about that I haven't dealt with, that I haven't had conversations about. And sometimes just doing that, it gives me that waited to exhale moment where it's just I got that out. I had that transparent conversation,
Mm-hmm.
or I made a move on a certain thing that was weighing on my mind. So I think it's so important about decluttering and cleansing the soul, because we always talk about cleaning your house, right? Getting things around, and that's relevant too. And I think in some ways it's connected, because I do better when I see a clean, like, if in my kitchen, if it's cluttered, I need to wash the dishes and clean the counter
Mm-hmm.
and wipe it down. I need to see a clean space, and it just kind of makes me feel clearer in my thinking. Everything is not on top of it. And decluttering our soul, it gives us that opportunity to say, what am I holding on to? What do I need to unpack? What do I need to let go of? Or what do I need to deal with as we come into this new season? What is it that I'm carrying that I don't need to carry, that's been like lingering? And what things have I been not wanting to talk about but needs to be dealt with?
Yeah.
So that's what I think about, for me especially.
So, sister of encouragement said purging, right? Which
Yeah.
really kind of relates to, I think, what you were talking about, right? Because there's the physical purging, right, of things and stuff around us, and but there's also the purging of your mind, right? That releasing, like you said, whether it's negative thoughts, ideas, fear, right? All of that stuff. So that's a really good, like that was a good way to start out. Like you started out, that's good. Sheila,
Oh,
what's
and let me,
saying
oh, sorry, just before Sheila, I also want to say it could be good stuff. It could be
you?
really these juicy nuggets of ideas that you've been thinking on, that you haven't made a move on.
Mm-hmm.
Fast stream, get it on paper, write it out, allow yourself to see it. So it's not always bad stuff, but whatever that you've been holding, let it out.
Mm-hmm.
Get it from here to some type of tangible space on your paper, or your take notes or something to that effect. But
Yeah.
but address it. Don't let it just keep taking space up in your mind.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sheila, for that. Okay.
Well, actually, what you helped me out to do is that when as you were talking, Gina, um, and seeing Sister of Encouragement writing the word purging, something came to mind, and that it was the word catharsis.
Mm,
Mm,
Catharsis is the process of releasing and thereby providing relief from strong or repressed emotions.
mm,
Again, ties into what you were saying, Theo, about baggage. What are you carrying that you need to release? What
yeah.
do you need to purge so that you can get that relief? And I
Mm-hmm.
think we all carry that.
yeah.
Um,
Yep.
so there's some things, whether it's because of fear, whether it's because you're just physically drained,
Yep.
there
Mm,
are things that we are holding on to. Maybe we have the intention of letting it go, but then we don't make it a priority, not
Yep.
realizing how that's affecting other phases of our lives.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about, having making sure that if something is off with you, you see something off in the kitchen, it's like, okay,
yeah.
let me just start with the clear head. I gotta wash the dishes,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
So you've
Right.
kind of developed a process, you developed a catharsis
Yep.
so
Mm-hmm.
that you could learn how to deal with what needs to be purged. And again, I think that is something that, and I know women carry so much of it, but
Yeah.
men do as well. And
Yeah.
I think men probably have more of a hesitancy to share
Yep.
because the societal expectations of them. You got to be the strong, silent type
Right.
at
Yeah.
Right.
all times, and
Yeah.
men need to purge as well.
Mm-hmm. And it's so funny because one of the things I was thinking about is, right, two things, right? The first thing is what habits or patterns, right, do we keep, right, that we have that are keeping us, from feeling that release and that lightness and that joyfulness, right? Like, because I think sometimes it's things that we um, are like conditioned to do that's keeping us from, just being free. Like, and I'll use this example, right? For me, and this is not a bad thing so much, but you guys all know I am so comfortable just leading from behind, not getting a lot of accolades, just being, just
Mhm.
doing. And this weekend I had an opportunity to meet with a young lady who's interested in HR, and just in talking with her and, like, asking her some questions, but also just, answering her questions about me and my career, right? At the end of it, she was like, you come to church every Sunday and you just sit in the back so quiet. Like, she said, but you are like she said, you're like this great, like, she was amazed, right? She was like, you come into the back like it's nothing. Like, you just sit back. Like, you're
Mhm.
no big deal, right? And I was like, yeah, I'm not one to really talk a lot about, you know, what I'm capable of, right? And what I do, right? But I said I am very well versed in the HR realm, right? It is an expertise that I have, right?
Right.
And so that just made me think about the fact that I need to share a little more about
Mhm.
my journey, my HR career, the expertise that I have, right? Because I think sometimes also we get stuck in these habits or modes of not even really sharing who we really are,
Right.
right? Which also is something that I think we need to do to really grow and take us to that next. And Gina, we talked about this, right? How neither one of us have really shared much about being authors and the books that we have and the other
Right.
stuff that we do, right? And
Mhm.
so it's just a reminder that even when you're talking about, spring cleaning and decluttering, right? It also, to me, is an opportunity for us to pivot and reevaluate, right, who we are and what we share with other people. Because the other side of it is we all are here and do this because we want to share with other people to hopefully help other people. But if we're not telling them what our entire journey has been, somebody might be missing out
Right.
on some really
I,
good gems or nuggets.
you're absolutely right. I was just looking at our title because it says "Women to Women."
Hmm.
Um, but and we talk about everything about relationships, our challenges, things we overcome, things we're still dealing with. And um, you both, Sheila and you, spoke to the fact that men, depending on how they grew up,
Hmm.
they've been taught they got to hold it down and be tough and that kind of stuff, or they got to be those strength. So sometimes they equate that with not being able to share or express
Hmm.
themselves. So I just want to say to the women that have spouses or brothers or uncles or someone that you love in your life, um, we're talking about purging and expressing ourselves. Why don't you call one of your guy friends in your life or your family or your love and ask them how they feeling, what they're thinking about, what's been going on in their mind. Maybe they'll share, or
Hmm.
maybe they'll just sit there and be a little surprised that you actually want to hear and listen to what they have to say. But, because we talk about relationships here, right? And so part of who we are part of stuff. We're wives, we're sisters, we're cousins, we're nieces.
Hmm.
So the men in our lives that we care about, just pick one. And while you're thinking about what you're purging and thinking about releasing, call one of your faves or lean over to one, hey, how you doing? What's on your mind? And just you don't have to even talk a lot. Just be quiet and listen, and you may be surprised at what they want to share and release in
Hmm.
Persian. And I like that word Persian. But the whole idea of letting things out, expressing themselves. So yeah, I was just thinking about that. Let's include the guys in this.
But you have to approach the guys differently
Well,
because
if you know, I'm saying you know them, right? You know
yeah,
some
no,
people.
no. What I'm saying, even for the ones you know, because what I've heard from some males are they kind of get a little like, okay, where's this question coming from? So you right, especially if you're not um someone that normally approaches them with a question, just be careful because they might be guarded a little more.
Well, I would always for that, my response is to lead with love.
Yeah,
And hey, I mean, for me, I was looking at this show where the women they were talking about, decluttering their soul, and me and you really cool. And I was just wondering, how you doing? Whatever, however it comes, but
yeah,
it's not an interrogation. It's just really sharing the space or creating a space for
for
them
that.
to have no judgment and just to be able to share what's on their mind. Just
Mhm.
like sometimes they may be there for you that way, and
Yeah,
you just say, hey. I see you. I see what you do. I see how you move. We're cool. You one of my cool people. And I just want to know are you good?
yeah.
You know?
Yeah, yeah, I'm joking, but me and my cousin, one
Yeah.
of my, a couple of my male cousins, I was telling someone like, it's amazing. A lot of my male cousins would just hit me up to check on me, and we have those conversations where
Right.
I'm able to share, and then they're able to share what's going, like, hey, what's up with you? What's going on, right? And so it does make a difference when you definitely let them know that you're just listening, not listening with judgment, not listening to tell them what to do, but just listening.
Yeah.
So Sheila, like, could you have a son and a husband,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, how does that dynamic work with your husband and your son?
Yeah, I have to be honest. I think that my husband is more apt to share
Mm.
than I am. Even
Oh,
Okay.
um, my son is not there. He's an odd dichotomy, right? Because he's very very social, but he's also introverted. So
Mm.
so you have to like practically pry things out of.
Yeah.
There are times where if there's something that he really really wants to talk to you about, he'll bring up the topic, he'll bring it up, but for the most part you have to be the one to initiate the conversation. um
Okay.
every now and then, and we keep saying it, my son and I, we say it to each other, we'll do the mother and son date
yeah.
where we can
I
have
saw you
some
guys just did
conversation.
one.
Yes. And I had posted too that it was long overdue because we hadn't done one in months. But we
Right.
need to do it regularly because my husband and I date regularly.
Yeah,
We
Yeah.
just I need to make sure that my son and I have that, so that we don't lose that connection, and he knows that he
Right.
has somebody that he can talk to.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, so it's a little difficult to get him to open up. Even his voice goes down a little bit and things like that. So it's hard to get him to share, but I know that I have to talk to him regularly to
yeah,
kind of open him up a little bit more. Not that he should be opening up to everybody, but
Right.
it's
Right.
healthy to open
Yeah.
up to the ones that are close to you. And, because as Regina said, it's a conversation with love.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's so crazy because he's an so I just learned this term because I'm an ambivert, right? He's ambivert.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. He can
So,
make friends quick,
mhm,
fast, in a hurry. But that doesn't mean he's gonna go hang out with him.
yeah, exactly. So that's cool. So do you think that, or how can I phrase this? Do you think that at some point in your life you had like unresolved emotions or past experiences that also kind of hindered you from like being free and having a spirit of, lightness.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
Uh, this ain't the platform I talk about it on because it's deep, deep. But I I mean, tell the truth, shame the devil. So yeah, we're going to be putting something to shame tonight. But seriously, there are some things that I I held on to too long, and and then it came to the point where I'm like, okay, you say you're a believer, you study God's word,
Mhm.
you know what He says about you, you read the scriptures, yeah, I'm in my Joshua. Be not afraid, and be of good courage. Have I not
Mhm.
encouraged you wherever you go? Whatsoever you go, I will be, right? Or I've made you the head and not the tail. So all of that, I can do all things to Christ who
Mhm.
strengthens me, right? And then you sit down and you be like, oh, I don't know, but should I do it? Or da 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 da. So it's like either you trust and you believe in what He's giving you to do, and because it won't leave you. I say those things have held me back, and um, releasing that has is continues to be my journey. Releasing the things that I um, were maybe fearful of doing, like writing the book or even
Mhm.
being included in the anthology. That was a big share because for me, I was thinking, oh snap, people were going to read what I was thinking about, and I was
Mhm.
being honest about what I was thinking about.
Mhm.
And what are they going to think about that? And I had to be like, but if it wasn't time for me to express it, then the Father wouldn't have allowed me to. He wouldn't allow me to go
Mhm.
past the stage of, putting it in print because it's permanent, right?
Yep.
But I also understood that if you're obedient to what He gives you to do, you're covered. Don't worry about what people say. There's going to be people that need what you shared because they're going through a similar thing and they're going to need to see someone did make it and that someone has some
Mhm.
tips and tools on how to make
Yep.
it. And the thing is, it's not about you wanting this over, race done. As if we keep on moving, we're going to new levels and new experiences. We're going to be sometimes those nervous things are going to creep up again. But as you equip yourself with tools to deal with it, to unpack it, to release it, it doesn't linger as long, right?
Mhm.
Those nervous things, those doubts, those fears, that's part of the natural. Your body's excited or expecting the thing to be. But if you're a believer, you trust in God's word, and then you look to equip yourself with ways to let that come out of your brain and not let it play around and bring it out. If it's writing something down, if it's journaling, if it's talking to someone, if it's recording your thoughts,
Mhm.
there's so many different ways that you can like declutter your soul. And because all of that stuff rumbling around in there could be great ideas mixed with bad thoughts and all that other stuff, and you're just sitting there kind of holding it. Um, and you gotta let it go.
Yeah.
You gotta somehow, but you gotta have tools, safety tools, things
Yeah.
that'll help you release it, not to go off for someone. You know how we say, "Oh, you want me to declutter? Okay, next one come my way is order popping, baby."
Okay. Okay, Pookie. Okay.
That's
You
what I
can't.
said. Now you got to bring the Pookie out.
Yeah, you can't. Pookie gotta be easy. You can't. Pookie gotta be all right, right? Pookie gotta be in a good mood for Pookie to come
Yeah.
out. But I mean, you can't do that on somebody else because you upset. All of
Yeah.
a sudden now somebody else catches it because the way you need to deal with your emotions, you've been kind of holding on to it, and then it's like, boom, you let it off. So I think you gotta let it off like a teapot.
Mhm.
Steam, you let the steam out easy, not just one come up in your face and burn you. So
Yeah.
you don't want your decluttering. It's supposed to be a good thing, a healthy thing,
Yeah.
a cathartic experience.
Yeah. I
Uh,
mean, definitely. I
yeah.
agree. What say you, Sheila?
Well, I can tell you that the one thing that changed me was my mother's death.
Mm.
Mm.
And aside from losing a mother, I lost that mother-daughter relationship that we never had.
Mm.
Okay.
So there's that part of me that when I hear women talk about, oh, I talk to my mother every day. Oh, my mother and I go shopping. I didn't have that. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that I didn't want her around,
Yeah.
Right.
that we
Right.
wanted to lose her.
Mm.
So that there's that part of me that is still holding on to that. I
Yeah.
don't want to call it baggage, but I definitely still to this day, and we're talking 23 years later, right? I still need to learn to release myself from that.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Opportunity that I get when I'm talking to people and they may be talking about not having a relationship with someone, especially if it's family and there's some kind of
Mm.
friction between a child and a parent, or between siblings. I'm saying to them, fix it, because what you don't want is for someone to depart this earth and the other person having regrets.
Yes.
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the part that I hold on to, and it's like, well, maybe if I had of, then we
Mm.
would have had a
Mm.
better relationship. But
Okay.
then the other part of it understands, I had to take my mother for who she was.
Yep.
Okay.
That was just not her when it came to in terms of her children. She loved us. She did what she was supposed to do, but she was unable to, in my eyes anyway, to form that kind of relationship. It was always going to be the mother child relationship. I don't care how old you were. It was always going to be that. And if she tried to, kind of, be the friendly mother, we didn't know how to receive that. I should
Okay.
say, I didn't
Okay.
know how to receive that,
Mhm.
because that's not what I was accustomed to. But then
Okay.
again, maybe if I had let go of what I was accustomed to and let her in a little bit more, we could have built on that.
Mm.
But the other part too is I realized that I can't hang on to that. There's
Mm-hmm.
absolutely nothing that I can do about this now, but I
Mm.
have to stop letting that hold me back.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I feel like you, without even realizing it, have kind of changed the dynamic with your son. Although it's not a, mother daughter relationship, it, just from you explaining how you are intentional about making sure you and your son have time to connect and to talk and have these you
Yeah.
know date times. I feel like, that is probably part of what's helping you to maybe release some of it.
Yeah. hmm and I was intentional with that because I never wanted my child to feel like he wasn't loved by his mother.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yes.
I don't
Yeah.
care what time he gets in from work. When I get ready to walk out that door, I'm going to his room and I'm waking him up to tell him, see you later.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't have
Yeah.
a
Right.
problem with texting him and telling him I love him. I don't have a problem with when I'm giving him a hug, you know, texting, telling him that I love him and he tells me the same thing. I mean, and we have our little quirks, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
of course it starts when kids are younger, when they start asserting that independence, and it's like,
Yes.
don't touch me anymore, mom.
Yeah.
You can't, we can't.
Yeah.
No public displays of affection, please.
Yeah.
All right, if they have to know you're my mother, then can you just at least stand 3 feet back? That kind of thing. So we go through that. So, he'll give me, whether when he's leaving, when he comes home, he'll either give me his forehead or his cheek to kiss.
Mm-hmm.
And that's our thing, because he's making sure that we still have that kind of contact, you know. And the great thing though is every now and then I'll get a text from him saying, Mom, I appreciate everything that you do.
Yeah. And that's
So
great, man. That is really great.
That's
so that
beautiful.
they're unexpected, they're unsolicited, So those are the things to say, Sheila, you did it right.
Mm-hmm.
Amen.
And one of the things you said, like, right, which is so important, I think, just when you talk about this decluttering your life inside and out, right? And whether it is, physical decluttering or the emotional and mental stuff that we're talking about, all of it requires intention, right?
Yeah.
And I was talking with some friends last week. That's Thursday on my other friend's show, and we were just talking about the same thing, right? Like how in order to really make some shifts and pivot and move in this direction that we all have been journeying towards, I think, since we all came together and met each other and went through our coaching experience or therapy or whatever, is how do you live with intention, right? How do you make sure that you are achieving the desires that you have, the life you want to live, and all of that, right? Without intention, you can't,
It's true.
Mm-hmm.
right? Like you just said it, like without even realizing it. Like, yeah, you still have to release, some stuff. I think we all do. I
Yeah.
know at one point one of my therapists, before the one I have now, had actually said to me, ask your mother about her life. Just ask her about her life, right? Because she was saying
Mm.
sometimes you learn a lot, right, by just asking them to tell you about their lives, because that's what shaped maybe the way they interact with you or the relationship you have with them or don't have with them, right? And I was like, oh, okay, do that, right? I still haven't done it, but it speaks to that sometimes we do have to release some stuff or really just intentionally deal with some stuff or intentionally have some conversations to help us declutter
Yes.
the inside, right? Because it's
Yeah.
easy to make time to, like for me, outside, like for me, every Friday or every evening, I have to clean my desk, even if I put things in neat little piles, because like
Right.
you said, if I have stuff all over the place, I can't think, right?
Yeah.
But the same goes for your mind. You have to be intentional about what are you going to do to make sure that you're in a good space mentally and emotionally.
Right.
Right? So what relationships do you think needs redefining, as it relates to boundaries, or perhaps like gently releasing them, or that you had to do that in the past? Because maybe there's nothing right now that you feel you need to release, like relationships. Because I think sometimes we also hold on to relationships that, and I know I had done in the past.
Hmm.
Y'all know my story. Held on to relationships that I should not have held on to, right? But and it's not just intimate relationships. Sometimes it's friendships, right? Sometimes it's you know jobs or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Well, I'll say my best friend. She passed away uh a little over 2 years now, and we were tight since high school. And it, what I realized is that I've gotten good, and I don't say it in a good way, but I've gotten good at stuffing down my feelings. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it'll take me a long time to think about a thing, and then I'll cry or release it.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me a while to really come to grips with the fact that this person that I just knew that I was gonna be friends with until our 80s and stuff like that, she's not here anymore, and she's the one person out of out of everybody that knew me before I became a mom, before I was all of this, that, or whatever. That was my girl. And our relationship was, we talked for a little while, then we would talk for months, and then we would catch up like it was yesterday. And what I have to release is the fact that she's gone, and now my goddaughter, which is her daughter, is an amazing mom, and so I'm saying, like, I pray, Father, help me to step up so I can be present for her because I know she's missing her mother. I'm
Mm,
missing a best friend. We've been through everything, but she's missing her mother,
mm,
right? So I need to accept the friendship that we had, mourn that is gone, because I'm never going to have that again. I'm never
mm,
going to have the relationship that she and I had. You know, that was 40 something years of friendship. And so, but I have to be present for her daughter, which is my
mm,
goddaughter, right? And so I've had to really have conversations with myself because I want to be there for her.
mm,
And you know, she's a maybe a little. She's close to my oldest daughter. They're around the same age.
mm,
She's a few years older, but it's like she's a strong woman, but she misses her mom.
mm,
You know, and I missed my best friend, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, dang, like, you know, and I had to get over being upset that she's gone. I was like, she, you know, why she didn't tell me she was going through stuff, why she held on to
mm,
that, and I didn't give, she didn't give me a chance to be there for her or the,
mm,
all of those things. But it was like, you know, it was her choice to make. I had to respect that she made the choices that she chose to make, and she's a beautiful, feisty woman, and
mm.
she gave a lot, but now I have to just remember all the things that we shared, that we kept between us. That's just us. That even though she's not here anymore, they still just us, you know.
Mhm,
Um, but yeah, I miss that, and just really um having to accept that that's not something I can change. But how can I move forward to honor our friendship, to honor our sisterhood, to move into the next level of being um, a better godmother to my goddaughter and her children.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I love that. So if you're just joining us, this is the Woman to Woman show on the New You Nation Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. But we are talking about spring cleaning for your soul. So decluttering your life inside and out. And Gina was just talking, and I think made a really good point of just talking about how you redefine. Sometimes you have to redefine relationships
Yeah.
to help you. Because what I heard is you needed to redefine the relationship in order for you to one honor right your friend, but also to be able to release some of the stuff you're still holding on to
The
about
fact that
losing.
she's not here,
Exactly. Right.
you
Yeah.
know,
And
yeah,
so
Mm-hmm.
and so what I heard was you had to redefine the relationship, and that included being intentional about establishing a relationship with your goddaughter, which is her daughter,
yeah, a
right?
better
To
one.
kind of
Yeah,
help you
yeah,
like deal with and the fact that she is not here any longer. And I think that's so critical to um decluttering your soul, your inside, right? Because
yeah,
I think sometimes in order for us to move forward, we do have to kind of reframe how we are dealing with
yeah.
managing certain situations.
Right, right. Because the friendship, I don't have to reframe. What I
No,
have
you
to,
no, you have to
I had
reframe
to,
how you
I, I had to reframe how I dealt with her
exactly.
loss. Yeah,
Yeah.
I had to definitely
Mhm.
reframe that because,
Yeah.
like I said, who do I have to share that with?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have anyone to share that with because me and her were like tight.
Yeah.
So the stuff that was shared between us wasn't a third person. It was
Mhm.
she and I that shared things that was just between us. And so it's like, who do I talk to about those things? You know, I can share some of the funny stuff, but the deeper things, those are go where nobody knows, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what that is.
Those are things that are in the vault.
There you go. They
Yeah,
in the
right,
vault,
right.
deep in the vault, baby. You
They
go
go, they go. Those are things that you and your bestie be like,
right. I
we
don't know.
taking this to the grave, right? And
Literally,
yeah,
literally. And what you
so
talk about, Willis? What? No, girl, be quiet. You don't know what you talk about. You won't dare. So,
yeah.
it's just really understanding that, yeah, it happened.
Mm-hmm.
It is the way it is, and yes, those are the things of life that we don't get to have a say so in when it's our time to go.
Mm-hmm.
We don't get to have a say so in the timing, but we have to learn how to accept
Mm-hmm.
um, and live fuller and move forward. So
Mm-hmm.
definitely, I saw something my goddaughter had posted, and I just thought about how much of an amazing mom she is
Mm-hmm.
to her children, and she's amazing. Just she really is, and I'm proud of her. So like one of the things that I felt like I need to do for her, like I'm gonna do for mine. When you say leaving a heritage for your children's children,
Mm-hmm.
well, one of the things that her mother did was love on her children and her grandchildren, and she loved her daughter and her
Mm-hmm.
grandchildren. So that's something that I need to take in consideration
Mm-hmm.
to somehow honor her by being more available for them.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was gonna say, I know for me when I was experiencing just back to back loss, right? Like it was like, oh my God, I don't, how am I gonna make it through? One of the things that I kind of had to do in order to kind of declutter my inside was to really just start to think about how do I honor the individuals that are no longer here,
Yeah.
right? And then I was like, how I live is going to honor those who are no longer here, right? Because I
Right.
have been blessed to still be here, right, on earth. And so I try to live my life intentionally. I try to, for the most part, we're all human. So I'm not going to say every day is roses, but for the most part, I try to really focus on just keeping a positive mindset, by practicing gratitude and positive affirmations and all of that other stuff. But yeah, so we are nearing the top of the hour. So I'm gonna leave with this question because I truly think this sometimes hinders us as well. And then Sheila, I'm gonna throw this one at you. How
Okay.
much do you think the identities that we hold on to, and when I say that, like the identity of, the titles that we all have, how much do you
Mm.
think that um, kind of sometimes declutters our insides and even sometimes out.
Well, it's funny that you're actually coming back with this question because earlier when we were talking about sharing and knowing who we are, I
Mhm.
was writing my notes and I was talking about, yep, we have our habits, but, do we really know who we are?
Mhm.
I think that is an inhibiting factor that keeps us from decluttering. We're
Mhm.
more than just labels. We're
Mhm.
more than just a mother, a wife, a,
Mhm.
a granddaughter, more than an author, more
Mhm.
than
Mhm.
a chef.
Mhm.
Who are we on the inside? Right? Because now we're talking about getting into the
Yeah.
spring cleaning of your soul.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Finding out who you are can lead to why you're holding on to certain things, why you have developed some of the habits that you have, and moving away from just defining those yourselves with those labels because we're
Mhm.
so much more than that.
Yeah.
So much more, right? But holding on to labels like that, not knowing, who you are deep down inside, keeps you from fulfilling your entire purpose. And that
Mhm.
takes me now, looking at what Regina just said, live fuller and move forward. Well, how
Yeah.
can you do that? You actually figure out who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And my solution to that is just one tiny step at a time.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yes.
not something that you can just wake up one morning and say, oh, well, you know what? I am this type of person. So that's it. Good. Everything is cleared and cluttered now. It
Yeah.
just doesn't work that way. You have to start
Yeah.
one step at a time and figure out that thing that's really pressing on you, that's holding you back. I talked about the fact that I didn't have that mother-daughter relationship. Um, I need to, and even though she's no longer here, I still need to accept fully. I say that I do, but do I truly accept fully who she is? And I feel that some of those habits of who I perceived her to be is what I'm picking up.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
My mother was the kind of person where if she didn't want to do something, she didn't do it. And
Mm-hmm.
I've kind of adopted that attitude, but I've masked it with I work hard. So if I don't feel like doing it, because I've put in an honest day's work, if I don't feel like doing it, I'll get to it tomorrow. And then what happens? Tomorrow comes and that same thing is still sitting there.
Mm-hmm. And you know,
So
it's go ahead.
it's it's the baby steps that you have to be willing to take.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was gonna say it's so you just said everything because that is one of the first question I ask my clients, my coaching clients, right? Is who are you? And then I follow that up with don't answer me right now because you're gonna need some time to sit back and figure that out. Because like you said, right, we are so tied to labels and titles, which is why when some people lose a job, they're crushed, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
when someone retires or
Mhm.
they're no longer at a job, they don't know how to function because their whole identity is tied to a title or a job, right? That's why sometimes when relationships end, right, it's hard for people to bounce back or to move forward, right, without intentionally trying because their whole identity has been tied to being a girlfriend or a wife or a spouse.
Mm.
And that's why when all the kids are gone, right, and they go off to college and you're empty nester, it's hard for you to figure out what am I doing now? And you have a husband and wife that sometimes are just looking at each other saying, what do we do now? Because their identity has been tied to taking children to
Mm.
practice and games and etc. Right. And so
Mhm.
I so agree with everything you said. It's like
Yeah.
when I start with my clients and I know they're thinking, why is she asking me this? I'm like, even for you to begin to really figure out how you're gonna reach that goal or that destination or that life that you want to have, you got to figure out who you are. So you said it so well.
Yeah.
Exactly. Think about who you are, not who you want to be,
Yeah.
right? You can be anything, but who, and it may start off with, okay, who do I think I am deep down
Yep.
inside? And through your journey of self-discovery, you may find out that could be just a small part of who you truly are.
Mhm.
But
And
Mm.
just take things at a time.
it might even start with you asking somebody else, who do they think you are, right? Because sometimes people see stuff in us that we don't even see in ourselves. Like we're tying ourselves to a title or to a job or whatever. And people may see
Yeah.
something in us and we may or may not agree with it. But sometimes you'll hear somebody say something about yourself, and you're like, oh, I never thought of myself in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I would dare say though that before you actually take that step, make sure you're doing the work.
Yep.
Because if you ask somebody who they think you are, who they see you as, or what do they see in you, however you pose the question, you're either going to try to
Yep.
live up to that expectation,
Yep.
or B, become defensive and or offended that now you've thrown your total program off.
Yep. It definitely has to be after you've done the inner,
Yeah,
who am I?
Yeah.
yeah,
Right? Like you have to be clear on, because, and I mean, we can all say that because for those of you listening, we all have either been through some form of therapy or coaching or both.
or
Right?
both.
We all have done some work to even get us to the point where the three of us can even sit here and be co-hosts on a show,
Right,
because the old us would have been like, nah, we're not doing that.
right, for sure.
Right? We're not doing that. But instead, we are here on the Woman to Woman show on the New You Nation Network, because we all are kind of here because we all had some type of relationship or contact with Miss Trey Kearney, coach extraordinaire herself. Right. And so, yeah, I think this is a really good topic. We might need to continue it because I truly do think that Netta will add some
Yeah, yeah,
other tidbits to decluttering your life inside and out from a holistic and health perspective. Right.
yeah. And
So,
and I would and uh, the the cool thing about this, about the decluttering, we're putting it with spring because we talk about spring cleaning, but you can schedule a self reflection anytime, and you could do it every quarter, every couple of months, because to Leo's point, we and Sheila has said it. You said it regarding the titles. We are always evolving and changing. So we're always going to be dealing with different experiences and
mhm.
feelings and such. So it is important to do that internal dialogue,
Yeah.
just to have that, where are you with this situation, or what's really bubbling up inside of you that
Mhm.
you need to address. And it, like I said earlier, it could be a good thing that you just been kind of sitting on.
Yeah.
You don't want to be that servant with the one talent and you just holding it and you're not getting no benefit because you put it in the ground. You want to be like the one with the five talents and the
Yep.
one with the two talents that did something with it. And because they doubled the amount of the talent, y'all listen to the Bible, just listen. I don't know if it's, but look up the talents, the parable of the talents, and
Yep.
because so what is it that's in you that you've been kind of sitting on? Those are the type of things. What is it that you've been like frustrated about, or just really pondering? So we need to do that for ourselves, so we don't stress our internal body. Like sometimes not releasing those feelings or being able to express them in a way, it can impact our health. Like no joke. It's that stress comes from what's that unresolved things you haven't discussed or got
Mhm.
clear on, and you just kind of internalize it. You keep internalizing, holding it in. Um, and if you don't know how to unpack it by yourself, get help. Get a coach, get a mentor, get a therapist. If it's really more than a dish, a round of clean the kitchen won't help
Mhm.
you, and you two rounds won't help you. You may need some further assistance outside of that. But whatever you need to do to get grounded and have your well being um, intact, do that for yourself. You'll love yourself for it. You'll be glad you did it.
So I'm gonna take that as your final comment, and
It
I'm gonna
sure
let,
is.
let Sheila give her final comment.
I'm going to go back to what our esteemed Gina said. Live fuller and move forward. If
Mm-hmm.
you want to discover the purpose in your life, then you will want to live it to the fullest. And the only way that you can do that is by getting rid of the clutter and moving forward.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I'm just gonna piggyback off of the two of you and agree with that, but I'm going to add that you also need to be intentional
Yeah.
about um, doing that, because we can all sit here and we can all say to you that those are the things you need to do. But I will tell you, for each and every one, and I think I can speak for my sisters, we have gotten to the point that we are at now, doing the things that we are doing, voice actor and, author and whatever other labels that we have, which we don't really talk about much because we are kind of more in tune with our identities. So we don't always lead with those things. But I will say all of that came from being intentional, making a choice, making a decision to heal, making a decision to get help, making a decision to do the work, being intentional about how we were going to do some of the things that we are doing, and how we were going to get there. Like Shirley didn't just wake up and say, I'm a voice actor. She intentionally said, this is what I want to do. She did it without, that's another thing I'm going to say. Everybody does not need to know what you're doing. Right? She did it.
That's the truth.
And it was not shared. And then once it was done, she was like, hey, I'm a voice actor. And sometimes you have to do things in silence, because that's another way of being intentional. Because sometimes when you share things with people, there are the naysayers that will try to tell you why you shouldn't, couldn't, and should not do those things. And so I would say that's another thing that I would say, to be very, very intentional about when you are on a journey of decluttering your soul from the inside and out, is to make sure that you are intentional about how you are going to do that. And then that's it for us. Our first show for April, Monday, April 7th, has come to a close. We thank you for joining us tonight. For those of you who may catch this on the replay, this is the Sister to Sister show on the New You Nation Network. Please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to this wonderful, growing, blooming network that is filled with so much positive content. And until next Monday, I hope you all stay well. And we will see you next Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the New You Nation Network. Have a great night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night, y'all. Good night. Be well.